this right. Am I?
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. But it's sink or swim, only option is to win. In the murky water, not a thought of giving in. Welcome to the shrimp tank. Want to put it all together, this is big things. Doing big things. We ain't in the same league. Running a campaign, Roadie 2016. Like a phone to die, putting me in charge. I'm a general, from the front, I'ma lead the charge. Like a federal, fell on my lap, never. Going hard as ever.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode here on the Shrimp Tank, powered by Celsius Beverage. If this is your first time tuning in, you catch all our episodes up on our website, shrimptankpodcast.com. We do this show in collaboration with the Florida Atlantic University, the Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Roland Kidwell. Welcome back to the studio. I've been missing you. How are you,
Jason? I'm doing great.
Well, tell me what's going on. What's new?
I just got back from Las Vegas.
Oh, my favorite place.
I can't stand it, but I went to the USASB conference, Entrepreneurship and Small Business. We did some work with family business. We did a couple of presentations and workshops on teaching family business, which made me pine for starting a family business course here at Florida Atlantic. And we're celebrating Kevin Cox's selection as Entrepreneurship Educator of the Year for Florida. And he is going to be honored then on Friday. I'm not sure if you knew about that.
I did not know this.
Yeah, well,
kudos to Kevin. That's
he's
awesome.
very modest, and he won't, he doesn't. I have to announce these things for him. I'm kind of his PR guy. So he's been honored for that. And Florida State University is having a ceremony. He's going to be up at the state capitol to get this award. And it's pretty fantastic. Yeah.
Well, let's go over to Las Vegas for a second, because I hear they're not
stays in Vegas.
They're not doing too well, and this is an important lesson in business. Right. Don't get greedy. What's happening often is the prices have skyrocketed for hotels. And the most important thing, customer service is lacking. Right. We're seeing all these hotels that are just trying to binge on all the different fees when you enter the hotel. And then you get a bill for extra things. And traditionally, Vegas was a cheap place to go, and you'd lose all your money, but you'd have a great experience. And more people are not flocking to Vegas because of the price, and they don't feel like they got that good customer experience.
I would say that's an accurate assessment. I was at Caesar's Palace, and I don't know if you've heard the song Master of the House in Les Mis, how they try to take every little dime they can from you, and that's what they do. And just to give you one example, they had a little coffee pod package in the room. They had the Keurig there, and they're going to charge you $10 for the coffee pods from your mini bar.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing. Yeah. And the service, I don't know, the housekeeping was fine. The rest of it, not too bad. Food wasn't too bad, but I agree with you. I think that people go there to see shows, to go to gamble, but as you say, it may be attracting fewer people. I would say they've come back well from COVID, but I'm not a big fan. I haven't been there in 30 some years, but it seemed a little bit different on my second trip there.
Well, let's get into our guests today. We have Lisa Johnson here, and if you're watching virtually, not listening just on audio, you'll see all these amazing Girl Scout cookies, and my mouth is watering, of course. She's CEO of Girl Scouts of Southeast Florida. So Lisa, welcome to the Shrimp Tank.
Thank
and
you.
What are we going to do with these Girl Scout cookies afterwards? Are the students getting them?
Yeah, why not? I think the students should get them.
Okay. Well, Lisa, we educate students on how to explain what you do in under 60 seconds. So can you give the students an elevator pitch? And then we're going to get into the backstory, of course, but share with them exactly your role with Girl Scouts of South Florida.
Sure. So I'm the CEO of Girl Scouts of Southeast Florida. And in 60 seconds or less, I'm building the next generation of girl leaders and girl entrepreneurs. So we're preparing them for all of the things that life will send their way and making sure that they have strong foundations in all kinds of areas that will support them their entire lives. So, and right now we have about 5,000 entrepreneurs out on the streets selling Girl Scout cookies. And so I'd love to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. I think she nailed that one, Roland.
I think
right.
So.
That was without effort, right? You see how confident she delivered that 60-second pitch, and that's important.
Absolutely.
Because so often people continuously go on and on and on, and unfortunately, like, we live in a society where you have this much time to catch somebody's attention and make an impression on them. And first impressions are absolutely everything. What do you think about first impressions? And of course, you teach this, right? A lot of people selling these cookies, right, are outside Publix. I see them all the time, and immediately they come over to me, and that first impression is absolutely everything. So can you share how important first impressions are?
Absolutely. They say you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and that's absolutely true. So, the opportunity to be in front of someone to share something you are passionate about or something that you're selling them, as in Girl Scout cookies, gives you an opportunity to showcase your own skill set, your own confidence, and the skills that you've built. And so, making that first impression is critical. So, you want to think about what you're going to do and be ready when the opportunity arises, because you never know when you might be in an elevator with someone or be in a meeting with someone or be introduced to someone, and you might just have that quick opportunity. And maybe that's your future employer or a future internship employer provider, and they're going to give you an opportunity you might not otherwise have had.
I absolutely love that. Roland, I'm sure you would agree. Like, we bump into people all the time. It doesn't matter where we are. You were just in Las Vegas. Did you have any scenarios where you bumped into people and just things kind of create a ripple effect, I guess?
Well, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Oh,
Jason,
well, I was
yeah.
talking about good things.
Oh
that
yeah,
came
well
back
they
from
were all
Vegas, of
good.
course.
No, yeah, they were all good. But a lot of people I knew there already. But I think it's very important to be able to give and convey, who you are, what you're interested in, what they can do for you, but more importantly, what you can do for them is extremely important. I made a first impression on this class today. I don't know how good it was. I was over there talking to them about their project upcoming.
Well, we could pan out.
Yeah,
Thumbs up.
I
Did he
don't
do a
know.
good job? Did he?
Good,
Oh,
good,
yeah.
all right, good. Thank you. I got your names down here. I'll be sure to check an extra credit box for you.
There we go.
And we'll
There
see
we
if
go.
Dr. Cox agrees. Let me ask you something, Lisa, if you don't mind. Girl Scouts is an established organization. It's been around for 100 years at least. What are you doing in the last few years in terms of innovation to make it, reinvent it or change it, or is the same formula still work? How has that changed more recently?
So sure, it's changed. So we'll be 113 years old on March 12th. So we certainly have stood the test of time. I was not here at the beginning. I just want to point that out. But I have been here for 28 years. And even over the course of almost 3 decades, I've seen our organization change. We like to say that we work at the speed of girl, but the truth is we're constantly running after girls because they're changing at lightning fast speed. And in order to remain relevant and make sure that we have programs and opportunities for girls that are going to be relevant for them and help them grow their leadership skills, we have to be constantly evolving. So whether that's incorporating AI into the programmatic work that we do, whether it is ensuring that technology is a huge piece of what we do. It used to be that we liked girls to disconnect out at camp, and now we might find ways for them to use technology to do something really unique and innovative at camp. We've introduced a whole curriculum around STEM because girls, even though we're 52% of the college population in Florida, we still only represent about 35% of careers in STEM. So we're still lagging behind. And even though that gap is closing, we still have some work to do. So we want to make sure girls have access to become more interested in STEM so that they will pursue those kinds of careers. So we've really had to expand not only what we offer to girls, but how we offer it to girls.
How do you recruit? Like, when do you start? What age? And how do you bring girls into the program?
So we recruit, we serve girls in kindergarten through 12th grade. And certainly one of the ways we recruit is in schools. So we try to get to girls, particularly in elementary school, because the longer we can keep them as part of our program, the more likely they're going to benefit from the kinds of things that we have to offer in terms of leadership development. But we see girls in middle school who are joining because they're looking for that place where they feel like they belong. They're looking for a safe space to try things, fail, try again. And certainly we see them attracted to some of our activities. Some are very interested in STEM and they're not getting that in other areas of their life. So they come to Girl Scouts for that. Some love the outdoors. We have 1,290 acres of camp property right here in our jurisdiction where we're doing all kinds of fun programming. And so girls might be attracted to that. It depends. I can tell you that their favorite activity is actually selling Girl Scout cookies. It's the adults' least favorite activity, but is the girls' favorite.
I can vouch for being adults' least favorite activity.
Yeah.
Because that's what I used to do. Yes. Unload the trucks.
Yep.
Sort the boxes. I think they were supposed to be doing that work, but
Now, what other products besides for cookies? Of course, this is what you're most known for, but I was recently at Costco and BJ's, and I'm starting to see other products appear on the shelves. So can you share what else is being sold?
Sure. So our national organization appreciates that there's an affinity for Girl Scout cookie flavors. And so they have partnered with other manufacturers to produce products from coffee creamer to ice cream to other snack products that use those flavors. And it keeps Girl Scouts in the forefront throughout the year because we're most visible during cookie time. We put millions of girls out on the streets and every cookie season who are selling cookies. But during the rest of the year, maybe you won't even see a Girl Scout. She's doing service in her community. She's learning all kinds of skills. She's working with her troop and within her service unit, but you might not necessarily see her. But at cookie time, they're everywhere.
I'd like to dive deeper into the skills that are being learned, because often people say it's just selling cookies, right? But there's so much more to this. I believe in this so much. That's why I take my kids outside and I do the lemonade stand, right? And we create a creative name, and I toy with them about putting up a website like W&K's hard lemonade. What, not hard lemonade, that'd be bad. But I forget what it is, but in general, actually Celsius sells like hotcakes. We'll put it outside and surprisingly people will grab that over the lemonade. But can you just explain the skill sets and how important they are today more than ever because of social media? Because everyone's glued to their devices, and kids themselves, I have an 8 and 10-year-old, like they are addicted to the iPad and video games, and we always have to rip them off, and selling cookies is so important for their skills.
So we describe the Girl Scout cookie sale as the largest girl entrepreneurial program in the world. There really is nothing like it. There is no other program where girls are involved in every single aspect of the business, from the planning and marketing at the very beginning to deciding how they're going to use their proceeds at the end. So if you've sold for your school, for a sports team, for another group, ultimately, there's typically adults involved in deciding how the money gets spent. But in Girl Scouts, it's all girl led. So for example, at the very beginning of a troop year, girls might discuss what they want to do. Maybe they want to go to Savannah, Georgia. Maybe they want to go to Europe. Maybe they want to sleep with the dolphins. Maybe they want to do something locally. Many girls will invest their dollars that they earn into service projects in their own communities. But they decide what they want to do. They translate into how many dollars they need in order to be able to accomplish that. Then they create budgets. So they learn how to budget. What is it going to take for us to sell? How many boxes will we need to sell in order to achieve that goal? So they're working toward that. They learn their own elevator pitch because they learn how to talk to people about what their goals are. People like to support other people's goals. So just to say, would you like to buy some Girl Scout cookies might not be sufficient, but to say, would you like to help send a group of girls to Savannah, Georgia? That's a goal. You're talking to them about that. So they're involved there. They're actually front and center. They should be part of every sale. We tell parents, even if you're going to bring the cookies to work, bring your daughter in, allow her to be part of the sales force. Then after the sale is finished, they earn rewards. Troops earn proceeds. Last year in our council alone, troops earned $1.3 million in proceeds. Girls are deciding how to spend those proceeds. So they're involved in the economic engine that is Girl Scouts. And so they're literally involved in the marketing. They learn business ethics. They learn about their own value system. They learn budgeting and counting money and providing change from the time they're 5 years old. So it really is a full-fledged entrepreneurial incubator, if you will, for future business leaders.
I'm going to ask you that. Do you have any graduates of the Girl Scout program who've started businesses? Can you think of any examples?
I don't know if you've ever heard of Taylor Swift, but she was a Girl Scout.
Oh, I mean like locally.
Oh, locally.
Locally, yeah.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
There are many elected officials. We find that many times a lot of our elected officials are Girl Scout alum. About 50% of female CEOs in Fortune 500 companies are Girl Scout alum. Because what we know is even though we serve a small market share, in Florida, we serve about 2% of the girls, 40,000 girls across the state. And yet we know that the impact is far more reaching when we talk to women who were Girl Scouts and now have reached the pinnacles of their own careers, whether it's Secretary of State, whether it's the CEO of a company, whether it's simply an entrepreneur starting her own business.
Cool. Well, I can speak for one, a former Girl Scout who's senior manager at Grant Thornton now, just got promoted.
Love that.
It's my daughter.
Oh,
Just let you
I love
know.
that.
Yeah.
So Lisa, acting as the CEO of a nonprofit, what is the hardest thing throughout the year that you have to handle behind the scenes?
So nonprofits act like every other business. We have to bring in the revenue we need. We raise about $8 million a year between all of our revenue streams, and that supports our organization throughout the year. So the hardest thing is to generate that revenue. Some certainly comes from cookie sales. We also have a full retail sales program. We have programs that people pay to participate in, and then we do extensive fundraising. The only real difference between a nonprofit organization and a for-profit is that anything that we generate that would be considered profit is invested right back into our mission. And so our work is mission driven, not shareholder driven. We have stakeholders, not shareholders. And so we have the opportunity to do things a little bit differently. But I would say the biggest challenge is the same challenges that people are facing all over: the cost of employment, affordable housing for our employees. Nonprofits traditionally pay less than the for-profit sector. So those are some of the big challenges we're facing.
And are the cookies the number one revenue source, or is there something else?
They are the number one revenue source across the movement. We
Okay.
call it the economic engine of our movement. In our council, it represents about 75% of our annual operating revenue, which is substantial.
Wow.
It's amazing and yet scary all at the same time, because imagine all of your eggs essentially in one basket in terms of revenue. And during COVID, we learned a really valuable lesson in terms of how impactful it was, because in 2020 our cookie sale was finished. So when COVID shut everything down, we had already completed that sale. So most of our revenue was already accounted for the year. But in 2021, our sale was about $1 million down in revenue. So now we had to navigate the realities of, what does that mean for our organization? What will we not be able to do? Who might we not be able to hire? Will we have to make any changes to our staffing force in order to continue Girl Scouting as people know it?
And what's your second largest revenue source, I guess, versus that?
Is fundraising.
Fundraising.
You know, donations from individuals, corporations, foundations. We have a substantial amount of support from the community as well. And so that would be our second largest.
It's very important to have revenue sourcing for nonprofits as opposed to relying on donations and grants. So this model, is it something that other nonprofits do? I mean, you probably do it best. Can you think of other nonprofits who are actually having products out there, selling products, and using that as a way to grow the organization?
Well, I think there are a number of organizations that use products as part of their revenue stream. I would agree with you that ours is probably the largest and most well-known. We've been doing it for well over 100 years. It started with home-baked cookies. The trefoil in the blue box, which isn't up here, was the very first commercially baked cookie. And it has grown from there. So certainly it has become iconic as far as what people are looking forward to. I watched as you all walked in and thought, Girl Scout cookies. People like to see Girl Scout cookies. And certainly as a business person walking into meetings and bringing Girl Scout cookies, I can't tell you how many doors it has opened for me to walk in, because it sparks stories of their own Girl Scout experience if I'm speaking to a woman who is a Girl Scout alumni, and certainly just the idea of the sales piece of it and what it does for girls.
Jason's on a diet, by the way, so he probably won't need to eat any.
Well, the
gotta be
Thin Mints,
careful.
the Thin Mints.
Oh, they're okay.
Thin ones are amazing.
I
Those
have
are
to ask
okay.
you this one. This is a good question. One of the students put this in. If your leadership style were a Girl Scout badge, what would it represent and why?
It would probably be the entrepreneurship badge, which we actually have, because I do see myself as an entrepreneur in many ways. I ran my own consulting business in conjunction with my Girl Scout work for about 13 years. And so I think that the skills that I learned as a very young child in Girl Scouts for just a couple of years in upstate New York before I came to Florida and didn't know it was here, gave me some foundational skill set, but then just the opportunity to continue to grow and really look at, I treat the Girl Scout organization, my council, Girl Scouts of Southeast Florida, as my own business, and I care for it in just that way. So I think it would be the entrepreneurship badge.
Cool.
Okay, I'm going to read one of the student questions
Okay.
now. Okay, if you could host a panel discussion with 3 influential leaders, past or present, who would they be and what topics would you discuss?
Wow. 3 influential leaders. Well, I think I would start with, I'd probably start with Oprah, because when I think about entrepreneurs and self-made women, she certainly comes to mind as someone who had every obstacle put in her way and yet never let anything stop her. So she certainly impresses me. I have to say, well, I'm not a Swiftie. I would also add Taylor Swift to that list, because especially as a Girl Scout alum, I'd want to hear her Girl Scout story. But I really am so impressed with the brand that she has built. Literally, I wish we could get Taylor Swift to say every girl should be a Girl Scout, because we would never have a membership problem moving forward. That would be amazing. So put that out there for Taylor Swift. If anybody wants to have her call me, that would be great. And I think that the third person that I would add to that list, let's see. It would probably be, I'm trying to think of his name, because now he ran the Inside the Theater show. I'm trying to remember his name. I think he's passed away, but he interviewed every amazing actor in across every genre of acting.
I can picture his face.
I
He
can
has a
picture his
beard
face
and
too. And
okay.
yes, I can. And
Inside the actor studio or
inside the
something like
actor
that? Yeah.
studio, the host for that. I
Yeah.
absolutely would love to pick his brain
I
about
thought you might
all
pick
the
the
things he
founder of the
learned.
Girl Scouts.
You know, Julia Gordon Lowe is the founder of the Girl Scouts, and I think her story has been so well documented and so well told that I feel a little like I know her.
Okay. And she did this in Savannah. This is why you mentioned Savannah. That's where the Girl Scouts started.
She
think, right?
did.
Is that correct?
Yes, she
Okay.
did.
Okay, I think it's that time where we have students come up live
Great.
and they're going to ask you some questions. So if any students want to come on down, take the mic right here and fire away a question. Okay, we have 2 joining us.
So my question was, you mentioned you operate like a regular business.
Mhm.
So when you guys have like downtimes as far as revenue, how do you get out of those situations?
That's a great question. So just like every other business, we look at our expenses. Where can we make cuts in expenses? Where can we grow other revenue streams? So as I mentioned in 2021, we were $1 million short in our cookie sale. That's a significant amount of revenue to overcome. And so we looked at every area of expense and what could we postpone doing? Were there projects that we had planned that we could postpone till another year? Were there positions that were open that perhaps we wouldn't fill? As a last resort, you might have to do a reduction in your workforce, but as most businesses, that only adds to the challenges that you have as a business. So usually that's your last resort. So looking at other avenues, what about some of our funders? Are there some who might be willing to kick in more funding this particular year to help us address the shortfall?
Okay, thank
Thank you.
Great question, by the way.
Hi, my name is Caleb. Let me know if you can answer this question first. I want to make sure I'm like intruding too much. I just want to ask, like, being Coin local, a CEO of like the local chapter, correct?
Mhm.
Would you say that, you know, you get paid in that sort of position, or is it more so you volunteering and doing it on the side?
Oh, I absolutely get paid. This is my chosen profession. I have spent about 35 years in the nonprofit sector, all in paid roles. And I tell people all the time that we couldn't do our work without the volunteers in our organization. And I'm a very active volunteer in our community in a number of other organizations, but at Girl Scouts, it's my profession. So I get paid.
All right, thanks a lot. So
Yeah,
a little
I
bit of
appreciate
clarity,
that.
you know, if I was ever to work in a nonprofit position, or, you know, I love volunteering, but that's just like a part I had to ask for me. Thank
I
you.
think what you will find is a lot of people enjoy the nonprofit sector because it allows you to do what I call mission driven work. If you really love a mission of an organization and can make that your profession, it's the greatest gift that you can have. And so what I've sacrificed in terms of financial gains over the course of my career, I've gained in a million other ways, but the ability and the opportunity to serve literally at this point, a couple of generations of girls through our movement is a huge gift. So I sacrifice some, don't get me wrong. When you work in the nonprofit sector, you do understand that. But at the same time, you can create a very satisfying professional career that is a paying one. I've spent my whole career in the nonprofit sector.
Definitely, I agree. And I know someone who's like CEO, they take a salary, but they like spend so much time on it. It's like they're working 25/8. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question as a follow-up. What is the most difficult challenge in managing volunteers?
The most difficult challenge in managing volunteers is that they're so integral to the work that we do, and they're so important to every aspect of our business. And yet sometimes you have to take action with a volunteer just like you might with a staff person in terms of discipline or even dismissal in the event of something that happens. And so I think that that's one of the challenging parts is people assume sometimes if they are a volunteer that they can really do whatever they want. And in fact, we still have rules and regulations. Our primary focus is always the safety of our girls. And so anyone who would ever jeopardize that would not be able to volunteer with our organization.
And you
So
try to vet the volunteers, I assume.
we do. Yes. You have to pass a pretty rigorous background screening in order to volunteer at Girl Scouts. And we're really fortunate. We have about 4,000 registered volunteers, and we have about 35 full-time, 50 total staff. We couldn't do it without the volunteers.
For this region
For our
has
region.
50 staff? Wow.
Mhm.
And I love that answer because, you know, so often people just assume I'm volunteering my time, so I don't have to text people back right away, email back right away. And you're running a nonprofit. You need the answers quickly. And too often people volunteer that don't have the time.
Right.
And then what ends up happening is people get frustrated. My wife is doing bingo night tonight at the school, and she gets so frustrated from other people that are supporting her and volunteering. And she does the school store. So I hear all about this all the time. and it's important on the front end to set things up correctly. And I think, you know, words make such impact. When you set things up the right way on the front end, things tend to work their way out, and it's all the way you word things often.
I agree. And likewise, our volunteers have an expectation of us as staff. And it is important that we are meeting them where they are because they are volunteering their time. They often also have full-time jobs all day and are coming in at 7 o'clock at night to figure out what they're going to do in terms of their volunteer service to Girl Scouts. So being responsive to them and making sure that we give them the resources they need to be successful is critical too. So I totally agree.
Any other questions from the audience?
And I think
Don't be shy.
gestures go a long way, right? If you know they're volunteering, saying, "Hey, you did a great job. Thank you." Sending them a box of gift card, cookies on the house, sending a thank you note. And I run the brand Owl, right, with over 50 brand ambassadors. And, you know, we pay them an affiliate fee, but they do not get paid per hour, per month. You know, it's all based on what they put in. And I always see so many companies saying, you know, in positions where people are volunteering or for brand ambassador or affiliate type programs, like it's just kind of this lax model. It's like, well, they didn't show up because, right? All these different excuses that we label people because it's volunteer work. And the truth is, it's like, no, it's all wording. If you set the agenda the correct way when they're first interviewed and you say, hey, this is our mission, and you see that they want to be tied to the mission, they will hang around and be super fans. But it also comes back to leadership skills, right? And those leadership skills, you can't just put on the back of a box, right? Or an email. And I think this is where, you know, we're in trouble in society sometimes, where everyone says, well, I sent an email, like I'm a great leader. I'm like, but did you mean it? Did you verbally say great job at the end of somebody volunteering? So can you just speak to just those little touches you do? You've been a leader for a long time and people stick with you for many, many years volunteering. What are those little touches that you do to support those people?
Well, I'd like to say that there's never enough we can do because there's just so much that our volunteers give and give and give. And we do have a volunteer recognition program. We do that. Our staff spent the last couple of months writing handwritten thank you notes to hundreds and hundreds of our volunteers. We randomly select hundreds every year because we can only write so many. But we make sure that we appreciate them every chance we get. At the end of the day, they're here for the same reasons we are, which is for the girls, to ensure that the girls have access to amazing program, that the girls have access to the skill building that is going to serve them long term. And so we have a shared philosophy and a shared mission. It is our job. It is our professional role, but we couldn't do it without them. So it is truly a partnership. So we try to make sure that they know that we appreciate that partnership because they can choose to volunteer anywhere they want. And volunteer service is worth about $175 billion a year across the country. And our nonprofit is the beneficiary of many of those volunteer hours and those dollars. And we couldn't do what we do without them. So every opportunity you have to say thank you is a good one.
Are you ready for Mission Impossible?
Okay, you go ahead and present Lisa with Mission Impossible,
To-
our newest segment of the show, designed by the students.
Yes. To add an engaging and dynamic element to the podcast, this segment will challenge Lisa to think on her feet and apply her leadership expertise in real time. She will be presented with a high-stakes, hypothetical nonprofit leadership dilemma and given 30 seconds to develop a strategic solution. I mean, you have to give it in 30 seconds, but I think you may have 30 seconds to formulate it. Okay. Your nonprofit faces unexpected public scrutiny, some sort of a crisis or scandal, maybe involving a volunteer, who knows? How do you manage the crisis and rebuild trust?
Well, I think you start by building a credibility bank long before a crisis ever happens, because crisis doesn't happen. It happens in a vacuum, but then of course it can blow up very quickly. But the time you spend before that, we're very fortunate to be part of an organization that is very revered, but crisis still happens. And so the opportunity to build that trust ahead of time so that when something does happen, you can get ahead of it and stay on top of it is the secret to making sure that you can come out of it on the other side. It doesn't mean you don't have to manage that crisis. It certainly doesn't mean that you don't have to acknowledge what has happened. You do, because you're going to have all kinds of sources coming at you, and it's very different. I managed crisis in nonprofit communications for many years in my job prior to Girl Scouts, and it is a process to really work with our media outlets. And now everything is live in real time. And so managing that, staying ahead of it, making sure that your messaging is on point, consistent, and clear, and designating someone from your organization who is responsible for delivering that message is part of the strategy I
Excellent.
would implement.
Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah.
Got
A
a
little more
little,
than,
a little over 30 seconds, but that was
Sorry.
pretty good for
Well, she had
for-
30 seconds to formulate.
and then 30 to speak.
30
So
to
I
speak.
did okay.
I missed the rules of the game.
Yeah, well,
okay.
It's a new game.
Then
that's
you
okay.
did really well.
Want to do
You know,
another one? Okay,
Let's
Jason,
do
wanna
it.
another
We'll,
one?
we'll do the first one over here. A major donor pulls out at the last minute. How do you quickly secure alternative funding for some type of event you're doing?
So if a major donor pulls out, I think the first thing I would do is try to assess the reason for that, because my first objective would be to re-engage the donor who's pulled out. If that's not possible, then I would go to my other donors to see where we might have some opportunity to grow their support of a particular event. And lastly, I would try to engage some new donors who perhaps we've been cultivating, but see if there isn't an opportunity for them to step in and provide that support.
Are you allowed to upsell these cookies for $100 a box and last minute say that you're in a crisis and say we are looking to raise $10,000? Let's say that was the amount.
We are not
And
allowed to upsell
No,
cookies.
can't upsell
We
cookies.
can raffle off baskets of cookies and sell tickets to that. We
Ooh,
do
workarounds.
sometimes do year supply of Girl Scout cookies at some of our auctions, so we can raise money that way. But we would certainly be looking for every opportunity to close the gap.
Excellent.
Okay, Roland, you want to fire away the last one?
You need to double your organization's impact while operating with half the resources. What's your approach?
I'm going to go home and cry.
Okay.
No,
you
no,
got
I'm not
30
going to do that.
Retire.
I'm going to double my organization's impact with half the resources. I'm going to go straight to my volunteer force and work on my volunteers, because they're going to be the secret to making that happen. We have no shortage of girls who want to be part of our organization, but for the most part, it is the inadequate number of volunteers. Our volunteers are amazing. We simply don't have enough of them. So I would try to build my volunteer force as quickly as I could.
Do we have any Girl Scouts in here, former Girl Scouts?
There we go.
All right, great.
So we say that I am a Girl Scout, because once you're a Girl Scout, you're always a Girl Scout.
Okay, I'm going to put the students on the spot. If you raised your hand, can some of you come on down and share your real live experiences, what you learned, right? We want to hear from you, from selling the cookies to joining the different programs, because we want to hear the impact that it's made on your lives and what you believe it could potentially impact in the future. Somebody come on down. Okay, we got one.
Yeah. Okay.
We got two. We have
Right.
two.
Because Girl Scouts are brave.
And then
Excellent.
Roland, if you don't mind, there's some tissues on the side. Lisa may need it.
There are.
Okay.
I don't know what
Hi,
it.
how are you? My name is Jasmine Kubion. I am a former Girl Scout. I believe I earned my silver award.
Excellent.
I think for me, what I learned throughout Girl Scout is a sense of community, because my troop was very fortunate to be, we were all best friends throughout middle school and even throughout high school. So I think for me, it was a sense of community and the sense of sort of growing into the woman you want to be and sort of preparing yourself for that road. And we did that through camping. We did, group volunteer work, entrepreneurship badge. We all have one. And just sort of this overall sense of getting it done together, but also growing individually. So that was my experience.
I love that. And I tell people there are 3 keys. If you want to create a successful foundation for a girl, she needs to have a place where she feels like she belongs, caring and committed adults, and a supportive peer network. And everything you just said ties directly to that, because those are things that you will remember your entire life and think back on. And the Silver Award is the highest award that a cadet Girl Scout can earn, and cadets are in middle school. And it's pretty amazing because they do a project to support something in the community that they care about.
So let's give her a round of applause for coming up here and sharing her story.
I had a feeling we get them up here.
Love
If
She should get her pick of cookies, though.
come on down. First selection goes to you.
So my name is Lana Ekagwari. So I was a Girl Scout from the time I was 4 until I aged out. And so I was able to do a lot of amazing things. We went to Washington, D.C. as a troop. I was able to actually get a scholarship that helped me towards college at the end. We went to a lot of community service activities, and as a troop, I moved around a lot, but I was able to enter a troop into everywhere I went. So that was also something that I really enjoyed.
I love that. I hope that you will one day decide to be a volunteer as well, because you can
Definitely.
provide that same experience for another generation of girls. So
Mhm.
That's awesome. I love to hear that because we do hear that sometimes when people move around. The troop connection is one that helps make it feel a little more like home.
Definitely, because I always had a group of girls to be friends with everywhere I went. So it was amazing.
Love that.
See, I was right. I see
Yeah,
the
bit,
eyes watering
bit,
a little
little
bit. Even I was going,
I was
Roland might need them as well, the tissues.
True.
True. But it's fantastic to
Because it brings
hear
back
these
memories. Because my
course.
daughters were in Girl Scouts as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, it's that time of the episode, Roland, where we have to share some news about what's happening with different programs at FAU, and then we have to close down so the students can, of course, leave the class setting.
Well, I'll just make it very brief. We have our business pitch competition coming up soon. Anybody here enter the business pitch competition? I'm trying to figure out if the deadline is still open. I think it may have been extended, but 21st. Okay, so you have 3 days to put your pitch in, and that's a great program. We have all kinds of activities related to that. We have our Veterans Entrepreneurship program going. We're working to establish another Hispanic language entrepreneurship boot camp in Broward County and online. So a lot of things are going on in addition to my trip to Las Vegas and today's Mark Cuban impersonation with the
Okay.
glasses.
Well, thanks for sharing what's going on at Florida Atlantic University, especially around entrepreneurship. And Lisa, thank you so much for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank. If our audience wants to reach out, if they're students or just listening live, what are some of your socials, for example, and what are the best routes?
Absolutely. You can find me at gssef.org. That's Girl Scouts Southeast Florida.org. We have a whole staff listing. It's Lisa Johnson. Happy to give anyone my card before we leave today, but please do reach out if I can help you in any way.
And of course, she is now on the OWL platform, and you could call her 101 on the OWL app. She will be our featured expert next week. Well, thanks again for joining us on the Shrimp Tank. We'll be back next week right around 1 o'clock. Take care, everybody.